Hey, what's up? It's Jesko again from AcousticsInsider.com, where I teach home studio acoustic treatment techniques for audio professionals, but without all the voodoo. So I got an email from one of our home studio peers yesterday, and he was asking whether it was time for him to upgrade his studio desk. So he's got one of those producer desks, with the kind of the pull-out keyboard on the shelf on top with rack space, and then the speakers kind of on top of that. And he's kind of going through a major upgrade of his studio, and he's thinking about changing that desk out for one of those drawing tables with like an kind of an adjustable surface where you can angle the desk of the surface. And he's hoping that that will get rid of the desk reflection. And he's wondering if this is a good idea. Now, I have some thoughts that I want to share with you about that, because I think it's important to keep your priorities straight when you're thinking about the desk reflection. But before I get into that, if you're in the process of upgrading your studio and you're wondering what the best next step for you is, so you really get the most out of the effort and time that you invest in this upgrade, I want you to download my home studio treatment framework at the link in the description. These are my 5 steps to treating a home studio and getting it to translate. So this is very much a top-level view, walking you through the process of treating your studio with all the steps involved, like setting up your desk, setting up your speakers, picking a desk, obviously, thinking about treatment, absorption, diffusion, resonance absorption, a subwoofer, when to think about measurements, speaker decoupling. All these things are in there, but laid out for you in a process that you can follow so you don't end up turning in circles. I think this is one of the major problems that we end up with when we're treating our studios, is that we don't know what to prioritize at what point. And so if you're in that process, if you're thinking about upgrading and you want to know what that next step should be, I want you to check out my home studio treatment framework at the link in the description. But so should you upgrade your studio desk from a producer desk to an angled drawing desk or just an angled surface to get rid of the desk reflection? Well, sort of. Yes, if you are currently using one of those producer desks, it's definitely worth upgrading, but not because of the desk reflection. Okay? The major issue with those producer desks is actually having your speakers on that big shelf. I've seen loads of examples where just having your speakers on that large surface causes massive problems, both in terms of very close by reflections and potentially just resonance in the structure in the desk itself. So if you're upgrading, or if you're currently using one of those producer desks and you are thinking about upgrading, the reason isn't to get rid of the desk reflection. It's actually to get your speakers onto proper stands, onto floor stands, or even if you're just using a simple desk, onto some of those smaller desk stands that kind of mount the speaker off of the desk and also claim at least to do some sort of decoupling. Yeah, so that's really the priority here. It's getting your speakers off that shelf, not the actual desk reflection. Yeah, just keep that in mind. But obviously, if you are upgrading and that upgrade, your choice for the new desk involves an angled desk surface, go for it, but see it as a bonus. But yeah, a slight angle in the surface will probably help with the reflected energy off the desk. It's just that I'm not a particularly big proponent of that solution. I don't know of a single person who ended up using an angled desk, and that's likely for a good reason, because it's probably just really annoying to use your computer keyboard and your mouse on an angled surface, right? That's why even like the high-end mastering desks still have a flat surface kind of at the front of them to place your keyboard, your computer keyboard, and your mouse. So upgrading to a fully angled desk isn't really a good compromise, in my opinion. It really kind of makes it quite uncomfortable to work on, and you kind of go into that compromise for the sake of getting rid of a problem that isn't that big of a deal. So instead, what I recommend you do is you actually put your speakers on floor stands and then see if you can get a a desk surface that is just flat in between the floor stands. And it just needs to be big enough to hold the very essentials of what you use in your day-to-day when you're actually working on music. Yeah, all the stuff that you don't regularly use, move it to the side. Yeah, so that you can then shrink that desk surface to its kind of a bare minimum. So then when should you think about getting rid of the desk reflection? Well, the problem is that you can really only properly get rid of the desk reflection by having the right kind of speaker desk listening position geometry, right? So that's a geometry where the distance between the speaker and the listening position is large enough so that the angle that would lead to energy reflecting back to the listening position is so shallow that that can't happen. And so that's really something that you can only get in a big enough room with enough treatment, because that will then inherently allow you to increase the size of your sweet spot to allow for that geometry. Yeah? If you're in a small room and you have your speakers and your desk and everything kind of just pushed up to the wall, you don't really have the choice of just deciding that you're going to get rid of the desk reflection by investing in a certain piece of kit. Yeah, the only kind of way to do that, or all the ways to potentially do that, are compromises that, in my opinion, aren't worth it. It's really only in kind of big rooms where you can get that geometry that then inherently takes care of the desk reflection itself. Yeah, so don't obsess about the desk reflection. It's just not worth it. If you ever move to a bigger room, it will take care of itself. In the meantime, focus on what does matter, which is putting your speakers on separate stands, potentially getting a small desk that fits in between, or nothing, if nothing else, getting those little kind of desktop stands that put your speakers above the surface of the desk and usually also include some sort of decoupling. But with that, let's get back to learning to trust our ears and having fun making music in the studio. I'll see you in the next video.